Battuer, metal deity, and interview urinator Ozzy Osbourne is entertainment royalty for a reason. But did you know he once rode bikes with Pat Boone? Here's some wild tales from people who met Ozzy Osbourne. Rob Zombie has a professional relationship with Ozzy Osbourne going back to 2001, when the two teamed for the song Ironhead from Zombie's second album, The Sinister Urge. That same year, Zombie directed the video for Osbourne's single Dreamer. Throughout the years, Zombie and Osbourne have had their differences, most notably in 2010, when Zombie accused the former Black Sabbath singer of poaching members of his touring band. Fortunately, Zombie and Osbourne have long since buried the hatchet, with Zombie expressing his admiration for Ozzy in a 2020 A&E documentary. In an interview with Apple Music's Zane Lowe, Zombie recounted his first meeting with Ozzy, recalling that he went over to Osbourne's house, where the host decided he wanted to play his new record for Rob. He was expecting to hear only one song, but that was not the case.
He plays the whole album, looking directly at me, singing most of it.
He went on to detail his thought process during the bizarre and personal concert, saying, "I'm simultaneously thinking, this is awesome, and this is so uncomfortable, I don't know what to do." In the late 1960s, Black Sabbath bassist Terrence "Geezer" Butler was a rhythm guitar player in search of a band when he spotted an ad in a local instrument store reading, "Ozzy Zig needs a gig, has own PA." Butler was cautiously optimistic he may have finally located a singer, and one with his own PA no less. A definite plus for any struggling band. Noting the address was not far from his own, Butler made the trip to check out this Ozzy Zig character. Unfortunately, Ozzy was out, but he would show up on Butler's doorstep later the same day. In a 2019 interview with Music Radar, Geezer Butler recalled meeting Ozzy for the first time, saying, "I opened the door and there was this skinhead with a factory gown on, no shoes or socks, a chimney brush over his shoulder, and a sneaker on a dog lead." Despite Ozzy's odd appearance, Butler knew he found his man, adding, "He was perfect for my band." As detailed on the music website Always Outlaw, Metal Hammer writer Chris Ingham got much more than he bargained for when he interviewed Ozzy Osbourne for the first time in 1997. A die-hard Black Sabbath fan, Ingham lobbied hard to get the coveted assignment of covering the first reunion of the band's original lineup since 1985's Live Aid. As Ingham writes, calls were made, agreements were reached, and the biggest Black Sabbath fan won the day. Ingham's first meeting with Ozzy quickly proved to be a dream come true, with Ingham writing, "I cannot overstate how warm, welcoming, and downright funny it was to be around Ozzy Osbourne at that time." Describing Osbourne as disarmingly honest, Ingham was surprised when Ozzy excused himself for the restroom.
For the piss.
He then took the reporter's dictaphone with him so he could continue answering his question. As Ingham recalled, "I'd forgotten all about it until it came to transcribing the tape a week or so later. I could hear the Ozman unzip and start to tinkle, but I couldn't hear any splashing water sounds, more like splashing upon porcelain and tiles, and that's why the dictaphone was all sticky." Long before joining Metallica, Robert Trujillo was the bass player for the legendary LA hardcore punk and crossover thrash band Suicidal Tendencies, as well as their funk metal side project, The Infectious Grooves. In a 2013 interview with Bands Off the Wall TV, Trujillo related the wild circumstances around his first meeting with Osbourne, who he was a huge fan of. While his band was recording in Devonshire studios, Trujillo learned that Ozzy and his band were also in the studio and recording next door. Excited at the prospect of his hero being so close, he didn't have to wait long to get his first taste of some classic Ozzy behavior, recalling, "I remember one night at the studio, we hear this loud growl, this English growl, and all I see is Ozzy's rock and roll cowboy boots dangling in the hallway. And basically, Ozzy had tackled the bass player's girlfriend, and he had bitten into her cowboy boot. And she was pissed." Blown away by Osbourne's antics, the Infectious Grooves asked the singer to join them on the song Therapy. After recording his part, Osbourne would repeatedly return to the Infectious Grooves studio to dance to the song and ask for drugs, only to be met with disappointment.
"You got any beer? No. You got any pills? No. You got any cocaine? No." And he goes, "Man, you're boring."
Funny man Jim Breuer, best known for his mid-1990s stint of Saturday Night Live and hilarious roles in such comedies as Half-Baked, is a lifelong metal fan. His stand-up features dead-on impressions of numerous rock legends, and as he hilariously explained in one performance, his most memorable celebrity encounter was an unexpected plane ride with Ozzy Osbourne. As he recalled, "One of the coolest people I've ever met was Ozzy Osbourne. I grew up listening to Ozzy and Black Sabbath." An early 90s gig for MTV would find a stunned Jim Breuer on Ozzy's plane en route from New Jersey to California. Once in the air, Osbourne, laden with jewelry, shuffled his way down the aisle to where the comedian was seated. Seizing the opportunity to tell his hero how much he meant to him, Breuer related a story to Osbourne about how his father and uncle survived as soldiers in World War II. Visibly moved by the anecdote, Ozzy lowered his sunglasses and spoke some heartfelt but totally unintelligible words that Breuer proclaims he will never forget. In the 1980s, Guns N' Roses' penchant for excess was unrivaled. Riding high on the success of their 1987 debut, Appetite for Destruction, GNR indulged in every vice the music scene had to offer. Nevertheless, not even the band's hard-partying lead axeman Slash could keep up with Ozzy Osbourne's appetite for alcohol, or at least he had trouble getting on his schedule. In a 2010 fan Q&A for Revolver, Slash recalled his first boozy encounter with Ozzy in either 1989 or 1990. The two met in his hotel room, where Ozzy discovered a bottle of Jack Daniels that Slash was happy to share. He then suggested the two go down to the hotel bar after Slash took a shower. Little did he know that his meeting with Ozzy was already over, saying, "So he took off and I got up to take a shower. And by the time I was done, someone came to tell me that Ozzy had passed out and they'd taken him home. And this was at like 9 in the morning. Fortunately, it was not their last meeting. Over the years, Slash and Osbourne have shared the stage many times. In 2010, the duo recorded Crucify the Dead for Slash's self-titled solo album. Most recently, the top-hatted guitar player contributed tracks to Osbourne's 2020 album, Ordinary Man. After struggling through her early solo career with 2 albums that failed to spark much interest, ex-Runaways guitarist Lita Ford hired Sharon Osbourne as her manager, marking a dramatic change in her musical fortunes. With Osbourne guiding her career, Ford would record her most successful album ever, 1988's Lita, with the highlight of the album being Close My Eyes Forever, a ballad featuring Ford trading vocals with Ozzy Osbourne. Reaching number 8 on the Billboard Hot 100, the song remains the biggest hit for both artists. Amazingly, the song came together during Ford and Osbourne's first meeting, as Ford told Guitarist Exchange, "One day, Sharon and Ozzy came to visit me in the recording studio. Sharon got bored and left the studio. Next thing I know, Ozzy and I are playing pool and drinking wine, and we came out with Close My Eyes Forever. It was really an accident. What a great accident." Nevertheless, Ozzy's problems with substance abuse were at an all-time high. In a 2016 interview with Fox News magazine, Ford recalled a sad experience she had with Osbourne at a party just months after recording their hit song.
He says to me, "I know you. I know you." And it was like the lights were on, but nobody was home.
Savatage might not have the name recognition of Iron Maiden or Metallica, but true metal fans know the band as one of the most influential bands in the genre. Like nearly all 80s metal musicians, Savatage founding member and lead singer Jon Oliva cites Black Sabbath and Ozzy Osbourne as prime influences. In the mid-1980s, after a low point for Black Sabbath marked by the album Seventh Star, Oliva was approached to join the band. Unfortunately, the audition never happened, and Black Sabbath instead recruited vocalist Tony Martin for 1987's The Eternal Idol. However, if Oliva had joined the legendary metal band, it's unlikely that he could have lived up to the outrageous standards set by founding frontman Ozzy Osbourne. When asked if he ever met the legendary singer, Oliva responded with a typically outrageous anecdote of having dinner with Ozzy in Florida, saying in an interview for the metal website Crystal Logic, "I was with a group of people who won a radio contest, and that's what the prize was, to have dinner with Ozzy. I remember he came out in an evening dress and was totally wasted. One of the funniest things I've ever seen, and it didn't last very long." Aside from Sharon Osbourne, the person most responsible for pulling Ozzy out of his post-Sabbath career slump was guitarist Randy Rhoads. In 1979, Rhoads was one of LA's hottest guitarists and Edward Van Halen's chief rival. His band Quiet Riot had attained a large and loyal following in Japan, but had failed to gain traction in the United States outside the California club scene. At the urging of bassist Dana Strum, Rhoads reluctantly auditioned for Ozzy Osbourne. Rhoads, a dedicated musician with classical influences, was no Black Sabbath fan, but with Quiet Riot stalling out, he decided to take a shot at the gig. Recently fired from Black Sabbath for his drug use and increasingly erratic behavior, Osbourne was plotting a comeback. The first step was assembling a top-notch band to develop a sound distinct from Sabbath. With the help of guitar legend Gary Moore, Osbourne set about auditioning guitarists. Despite his formidable chops, Rhoads felt unprepared and outgunned, telling Guitar World shortly before his death in a tragic plane crash in 1982, I never looked for auditions or gigs outside of what I was doing. I brought along a tiny practice amp. I started tuning up and Ozzy said, "You've got the gig." I didn't even get to play. I had the weirdest feeling because I thought, he didn't even hear me yet. For better or worse, Ozzy Osbourne always makes an impression. Known to be gracious and accommodating to his fans, Ozzy himself is just a music fan at heart, an admitted Beatles superfan. A brush with Paul McCartney once reduced the Prince of Darkness to a nervous fanboy. However, you may be surprised at another star who's left Ozzy speechless. As reported by Contact Music, pop songstress Taylor Swift left Ozzy Osbourne in awe. According to an October 2013 article, Sharon Osbourne told the audience of The Talk that she and Ozzy had unexpectedly bumped into Swift while shopping in Los Angeles over the weekend and struck up a conversation with Sharon saying, "He was so blown away with her beauty and the aura that she projects. Ozzy said to me, I finally met somebody that I can say is a true superstar." When asked by Conan O'Brien if she was afraid that Ozzy might make a play for the singer, Sharon Osbourne laughed off the idea, saying that Ozzy had more of an admiration than a crush.
She's a lovely young girl, and he just happens to think that she is a great example. He thinks that she's really beautiful and talented.
Sharon Levy was only 16 when she first laid eyes on Ozzy Osbourne. Invited by her father, famed music promoter Don Arden, to see an up-and-coming act at London's Marquee Club, she had just joined the family business as a receptionist. The band, of course, was Black Sabbath. The buzz around the group and their upcoming debut album was palpable, and Arden hoped to snatch them away from their comparatively small-time management. Raised in the business, Sharon was practically a music industry veteran as a teenager, but she'd never seen or heard anything like Black Sabbath. Sharon wrote of the experience in her 2005 autobiography, Extreme, writing, "And it was just a brilliant show. You didn't have to know anything about the genre, and none of us did, because it didn't really exist until Black Sabbath invented it." The following day, Arden brought the band to his office to discuss adding them to his stable of artists, and Sharon got her first good look at Ozzy and detailed it in her book writing. Although it was winter, he was wearing open sandals. For a shirt, he had a pajama top, and on a string around his neck was a beer tap. Although most people these days know Rick Astley as an internet meme, in the 1980s, he was one of the biggest pop stars in the world. Astley's 1987 album, Whenever You Need Somebody, generated a string of hits, including the smash Never Gonna Give You Up, propelling the 21-year-old British-born singer to worldwide fame. In 1994, Astley, then just 27 years old, left the music scene entirely to concentrate on family life. Astley began a comeback in 2000 and embarked on a successful tour 4 years later. Obviously, it's hard to imagine the perfectly coiffed pop star having much of anything in common with a rock and roll wild man like Ozzy Osbourne. But as Astley told Rolling Stone in 2016, the unlikely duo found themselves engaged in a bar-side conversation at Los Angeles' Sunset Marquis Hotel. Recognizing Astley, Osbourne strolled over to say hello. Soon, Ozzy was giving the Together Forever singer his recommendations for musicians for Astley to take on his upcoming tour. Recognizing that her husband was out of his element, Sharon Osbourne quickly came to the rescue. According to Astley, Sharon exclaimed, "What the bloody hell do you think you're doing? Do you really think he wants to work with the long-haired guys that you do?" In the 1950s, singer Pat Boone was the squeaky clean alternative to raucous rockers like Elvis and Chuck Berry. But by the next decade, Boone would move away from pop music to concentrate on a successful career in gospel music. In 1997, a leather-clad Boone shocked the world with Pat Boone in a Metal Mood, No More Mr. Nice Guy. The album, which featured jazzy covers of hard rock and metal hits including Van Halen's Panama and Ozzy Osbourne's Crazy Train, was Boone's first mainstream hit in decades. Boone first met Ozzy Osbourne when a rocker and his family moved next door to his Beverly Hills home. Surprisingly, Straight Arrow Boone and Ozzy hit it off right from the start, with Boone telling the Television Academy Association in 2010, "He told me about being an Alcoholics Anonymous and said, I even say an odd prayer now and then. I said, it's not odd to me, Ozzy." In 2002, Boone expressed his love for the Osbournes as neighbors to the Associated Press and detailed his fondest memory with the couple, riding bikes with Sharon through Beverly Hills as she towed Ozzy along behind in her wagon. As a fan of classic-era Black Sabbath, guitarist Kirk Hammett felt the pressure of being the lead-in for Ozzy Osbourne when Metallica opened for the legendary singer in 1986, but told Gibson TV that the band got the seal of approval from their hero when Ozzy showed up at a soundcheck. He recalled, "We were playing maybe Black Sabbath's Hole in the Sky, or maybe Symptom of the Universe, and all of a sudden, out in front of the stage, there's Ozzy with a big old smile going, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." Touring with the rock and roll madman, however, came with some rules that Hammett and the others were to stick to.
We were told by Sharon the entire time, can't drink around Ozzy. Can't drink, you know? If you're going to drink, pour it in a solo cup.
However, Ozzy fell off the wagon with a little help from bassist Cliff Burton, who Ozzy found on their tour bus, with Hammett saying, "And so after about 20 minutes, all of us go on, and there's Ozzy on our bus, and he's drinking. Now we're like, holy shit, what are we going to do?" Eventually, Osbourne's tour manager was able to extricate him from Metallica's bus. Somehow, the band escaped Sharon's wrath and remained on the tour. Former Black Flag singer and spoken word artist Henry Rollins is a huge fan of Ozzy Osbourne, and he's never been shy about expressing his love for early Black Sabbath. While introducing Black Sabbath's return in 2011, Rollins explained how Black Sabbath's music changed his life, saying, "I was a very alienated young person. When I heard Black Sabbath, my life had a soundtrack. I realized that there were some people out there using music to make great statements. High school became powerless over me after that." Never expecting to meet his idol, Henry Rollins jumped at the opportunity when his management arranged for the Rollins Band to open for Osbourne in 1996. Feeling Osbourne was too big to spend time with the opening act, Rollins hoped he would at least get a glimpse of Ozzy at the show. As Rollins explained in one of his spoken word performances, he got much more when the band received an unexpected knock on their dressing room door. He recalled, "The door opens up, Ozzy walks in, no shirt and a cigar." Introducing himself, Osbourne asked if he could hang out with Rollins and his band. A gracious Ozzy Osbourne thanked the Rollins Band for opening and promised that he would accommodate their every need.